Welcome, I'm Bruce Walker, and this is Artist in Residence. And today, we got the best of both worlds. We got a top artist, and we have a top record company executive. Today, we're joined by Chaz French, Motown recording artist,
How you doing?
and Dre Hopson, super executive. Thank you guys for stopping by and hanging out and talk to us for a while.
Thanks for
Well, you know,
having
the
us.
focus here is really to let people know, like, the insides of the music business. And, you know, there's a lot going on in the music business, but there's a lot of different aspects about the business that people may not know. It's a hard struggle. Just because you see the videos and you see people on stage and you see all the highlights, there's a lot of hard work behind everything.
Definitely.
You know, and the cool thing about it is that, you know, there's a lot of people from DC that are in the business, for whether it's music or film or television, but, you know, not a lot of times we get to kind of chop it up and talk together about it. I'm formerly born and raised here as well, and did my extent of things in both the music and television side, and have a fond affection for Motown, because I was formerly senior vice president there under some icons, Gerald Busby, Clarence Avon,
Dope.
Andre Arell.
Dope.
Had a great time. But tell me a little bit about each one of your journeys. Chaz, tell me about, you know, how you got started in the business.
I started rapping as a youngin', and you know, I just grew a love for music, and it just continued to grow, and I just continued to perfect my craft. And I was just having hard times in my life, so I put it in my music, and I was living in Texas at the time. And so, you know, I finally put my pride to the side, moved back to DC, and was working on a project. And long story short, I thought I had a project put together, and a friend of mine, a friend of a friend, played my music for Dre. And Dre was interested, and you know, we just built a bond, and you know, he ended up letting me know, like, showing me what I can do better and helping me, you know, perfect my craft even more. And I ended up wiping that project and doing a whole nother project, which is Happy Belated, and we put it together, and I ended up getting signed within like 5 to 6 months after my first project.
So is this something that you always wanted to be, a recording artist?
For sure, for sure.
And what inspired you?
Just, I guess, the fact of being creative and being able to put your emotions into music, and hearing myself for the first time, I was just like, oh man, this is me. I think I can be something with this.
So it's a lot has to do with relationships. I mean,
for sure.
How you met Dre. And
Yeah.
Dre, you know, how did that come about, and how did you get started in this business?
I really got started, my start in this business started in this building, actually. It was even before I even knew it. My mom was a part of the original BET staff, and she did hair and makeup here. And I was on Teen Summit, and I just spent a lot of time, you know, soaking up the industry, just seeing what was going on around me. And I had an affinity for it. I didn't really understand what it meant to be actually in the business as far as a career. So I was just always around the music, and the music just always drew me back in. While I was in college, I actually, my mom was a good friend with Chucky Thompson, who's a producer that's from here, Grammy Award winning. And while I was in school for a degree in electrical engineering, of course, my mom couldn't differentiate between electrical engineering and audio engineering, and Chucky needed an intern to be an engineer for the studio. So she put us together. I worked my way through teaching myself how to use Logic and Pro Tools and stuff like that. So I ended up running Chucky Studio. So it was kind of like my kickstart into the business, or, you know, the professional realm, and getting to work with people who had really accomplished some things in this area. Being there, and at the same time being a promoter in college, I just started to network, of course, with artists who were coming through the studio, and they were noticing that I had a following as a promoter, but I also understood, you know, the music business and my way around the studio. So me being a kid at 21, just being around a lot of artists, you know, I started to get asked, can you manage me? Because I noticed, you know, you have a good following in the city, and, you know, you're likable and people know who you are. And you know, that's my first time I had ever even thought about a real career in the music business. So, you know, I tried it out when I finally ran into the artists who moved me, because it's all about the music for me first. So if I hear something that instantly garners my attention, or it gives me that feeling, that's what makes me move, not not analytics or things like that. It's definitely the music. I gotta hear it. I gotta feel it. I gotta think, okay, this person is a star. Or even before I feel like this person is a star, their music has to move me. So, you know, there's a couple people whose music moved me, and then I started to run with it.
So you said a lot of things. You did a lot of things before you found your niche.
Yeah.
And now you have a joint venture deals?
In 2015, as Chaz was speaking, after we put out his project, Happy Belated, I had Chaz perform on a showcase in Atlanta, A3C, the festival, and he was spotted by A&R there that worked for Motown, and he and I kept in touch. He had been keeping tabs on Chaz, and he was like, man, I really think that, you know, we should try to put a play together at Motown. And I guess 3 weeks after that meeting in LA, they flew us back out to LA to meet with Ethiopia, the president of Motown Records. Ethiopia is another person who bets on talent. So once she heard his music that we hadn't released yet, on top of, you know, what was going on with the project that was out, she just was like, I'm not letting you guys leave this building. So they kept us out there for 10 days. We did a publishing deal with Universal Music Publishing, and we also did the joint venture with Motown. My other joint venture is with Epic Records and Rostrum Records, and been off and running ever since.
So a lot of people don't understand that this is the music business, and people kind of tend to forget the last word of business when it comes to music. Talk a little bit about your perspective as an artist and your perspective as an executive of exactly what that business means.
Well, I mean, for one, you definitely have to think of it as a business, and you have to have a viable product. A lot of times artists get into, you know, why they started this was, most of the time it was as an outlet, or, you know, to be creative, or, you know, this is their art form. And it just so happens if you're good at this art form, you can sell it. And a lot of them don't think of, from the start of when they're creating, how do I package this and make it into a product? Or how does my product align uniformly across the board? And, you know, there's give and take, and there's a balance. And as an executive, it's my job to take the clay or the masterpiece that he comes out of the studio with, and then put the other pieces around it in order to make it a viable product. So that's it. Nowadays, especially with this being a digital world, I gotta make sure that he's being the same person online, on social media, in person, because somebody always has a camera on. So you have to make sure that that narrative remains constant every time he's seen. And that's kind of hard, you know?
A lot of times I'm not even thinking about that. I'm just thinking about the music and just living in the moment. And that's where I fell short a couple of times, just like not taking it serious as a business, because all I'm worried about is the music aspect of it. And you can't do that. So
with artists that are in similar situations as yourself, how important is it to find somebody like a Dre, or how do you find that person? Because a lot of times you'll end up meeting so many people that tell you that they can do so many things for you, and, you know, they can't. I mean, so how do you, you know,
it's just about, you know, show and prove, because before me and Dre even talked about music or anything, we kicked it for about a week or so and just got to know each other on a personal level. So we built some type of trust before it was even the talks of any business going on. That, to me, says a lot. You know, met my mom, met my folks. So it's just like, okay, cool, I'm comfortable.
So do you ever at times find that it's difficult for you to stay in a creative mode when you do have to think about business, and how do you balance that?
I think it's just to each his own. You know, I mean, I think as an artist, you should always be creating, but the business side sometimes can consume you in a different way too, because it's a lot to worry about, it's a lot to focus on at once. And I know I can't focus on too many things at once. I know it's like when it's music time, I'm focusing on music. So now it's just about me creating that balance.
So what is business these days in the music business? Because it's gone from, like, when I was involved in the business, it was pretty straightforward. You know, you sold records and you made money, and you could go to the record store and get them or whatever. Now everything's online. The price of the records is cheaper. You got other revenues coming in, streaming. You got really an emphasis on publishing and licensing and touring and all of that. If you're a person that wants to be in the music business, what should you know about actually how to make money?
Well, first of all, you got to be a forward thinker and innovative. You can really think of anything or any type of corporate partnership possible that you can create a revenue stream. So from creative packaging on, as you said, touring and merchandise, and you could score films, TV shows, and now with all of these different platforms from Netflix to Hulu to phone companies, content is king. So everybody needs music to go along with their content, and visual content, docu-pieces. So it's all about creating a large enough platform for people to want to partner with your platform. So it's really just about growing the audience and being authentic. I think now is a time of transparency, because people will always have you on camera. So, I mean, if you're not authentically who you are, it's going to show.
So whether you're signed or whether you're unsigned, one of the common things is you got to create an audience.
Absolutely.
So
sure.
With both of you guys must have a total different perspective on how to create your audience. You from an artist and you from a record company executive. Chaz, how do you create? What would you say that people should do to create their audience as an artist?
Like you just said, just being genuine and being you, and constantly being detailed and what's the word I'm looking for? Strategic, and always planning ahead.
So are you always on your phone, on the gram, and
yeah, for sure,
and all the social?
I can do better with social media. I can attest to that. Like, I can do better with showing who I really am on social media. I mean, especially with the type of music I make and how honest I am in my music. People want to match the story with who I really am. People want to buy it, want to believe it. You know, you got seeing is believing. So if I'm not showing nothing, what is there to see? All they can do is listen to it.
And you from an executive?
I second what he's saying. It's super important to be visible, and it's also, especially when you're an artist, and in the early stages, in the developing stages, it's hard to draw back and understand that you yourself are the product, and you have to separate, and you have to sacrifice personal things. Yeah. So I can't just go on my social media as an artist and vent certain things that don't align with my brand. Or, I mean, I can, but it just doesn't make sense. That's not what a potential partner would like to see if I'm doing some type of rant or, just things that don't align. Anything you put online, once you hit send, you can't bring it back. So you have to be thinking, when I put this out there to the world, does it align with my brand? Is this the narrative that I'm trying to put forth? So that's a sacrifice you have to make personally as an artist. You have to think, I'm always on stage. Whether I'm typing on a keyboard or I'm stepping on my front door, I'm on stage.
Now, some people say, any press is good press that's out there. So,
that too.
So what do you think that there's sometimes it can be bad, like you're saying,
yeah.
Sometimes it can be good. So, I mean, how do you balance the two?
I just think it depends on who you are and where you are in your career. It's like simple as that. Like, certain people can get away with certain things based off the work that they put in, based off their resume. Certain people can get away with that. And also, you gotta look at the fact that some people just don't care.
You gotta portray a certain lifestyle. Mm-hmm. Now, sometimes that lifestyle that you're portraying really isn't you all the way. How far do you go with that, Chaz, in your music? I mean, your stuff seems to be pretty straight ahead.
Yeah, it's just pretty straightforward. I don't know how to portray anything other than what I am.
Do you think it helps or hurts you?
It depends. It depends on who you are. It depends on what lane you're in. If I'm not talking about killing and shooting and da. So I don't have to have this persona that I'm a gangster or that I'm this, that, and the third. And that may work for certain people. I don't know, because I'm not in that lane. I just know what works for me and continuously trying to figure out what works for Chaz.
And it owns different joint venture deals with different kind of labels, with different kind of artists. So I would assume you have to look at a lot of different things.
Absolutely. And that's also key when, you know, even thinking about potential artists and who you're going to do business with. It's like, what's going to come with this?
Right.
I mean, just about everything you put out there, music is all about energy, and that's what makes people feel it. So the energy that you push forward is the energy that's going to come back. So if you're putting out that energy that I'm a killer, that I'm shooting this, I'm shooting that, that's the type of energy you're gonna receive. So whenever you pull up in a town, those are the type of people that'll be in the audience with that type of energy to give back. So you gotta be prepared for that. And that's not for everybody. So I mean, even as an executive, you gotta know what you're putting yourself into.
Hey. What you talking about, boy, you know you're not with it. What you talking about, boy, you know you're not with it. What you talking about, boy, you know you're not.
A lot of times record companies have certain opinion over what's going to sell.
Yep.
Or what image that you should be or whatever, as opposed to as an artist, this is where you are and what has attracted them initially, but some people inside the building may have a whole different idea about what's going on. Have you guys run into that? And then if you have, how have you worked with it or around it?
I wouldn't say I ran into it. I think this day and age, it's more freedom for artists to really be who they want and wear what they want and, you know, really be everything that they want to be. I don't think it's that much of a control aspect these days.
I mean, I think that everything moves so fast right now
Exactly.
that the labels have really taken the reins off as far as like, you know, how they used to, you know, really like be meticulous and own all of the creative control back in the, you know, back some years ago where, you know, there were only this many TV stations or this many outlets to get things out. So really, if you garner the attention of a label to even get to the point where they want to do business with you, most of the time, they're not just doing business with the artist, but they're doing business with the team, and they have enough belief in the team and what they do to really, you just look at the label as an angel investor, and it's just like, you guys continue what you're doing, but do it on this level now.
Exactly.
So it's very important if I'm an artist these days that I better start not just creating my music and concentrating on that, but I need to pretty much do my own artist development and then get it out there in social media so that I get my own following even before I go and try to get a record deal.
I mean, yeah, in a sense.
Because see, a lot of people think that the day they sign a record deal, something's gonna change.
Their life is, yeah, nah.
I mean, your bank accounts are gonna change, but even having $1 million, if you don't know where to spend it,
or if nothing else is coming in, then
yeah. But and the thing is, it's really just about using the label is a tool, the money is a tool, and you have to know how and when to use them.
Everybody talks about A&R, A&R, A&R. In your opinion, what is A&R, and what is the signs of who is a good A&R person, and explain what A&R is and what A&R does.
Nowadays, that title is a moving target, but who I think makes a good A&R is somebody who lives, breathes, sleeps, and eats the culture. And what I mean by that is A&R is everything from creating a great vibe in the studio, getting the most out of an artist, figuring out who they would sound good with, you know, garnering features, even working with big name producers is now just as good as garnering a feature.
Yeah.
So A&R who can take an artist that necessarily doesn't have a huge following yet and move him around and actually create all of those things, make sure this artist is on the right scene in fashion, on the right scene, making the right relationships as far as in the music industry. It's not just about going in and cutting a record anymore, because all of these things matter. You have to, does he have the right look? Does he have the right sound? Is he around the right people? Is his socials doing the right thing? Is he at the right party? Like,
even down to what you posted.
Yeah, all of that is involved in A&R. So it's just like, it's the culture now. So I mean, you can have somebody who has traditionally been a fashion designer and he DJ'd, and then all of a sudden, you know, but he has an ear and he has an eye. That person could end up being a dope A&R because he knows how to put the right people together. And that's really what it is now. It's just a dot connector.
So there's three things that I want to really get your insight on, and I want you to share that I think is very important that people know about. The first is the song. Mm-hmm. How do you go about approaching writing a song that is there a hit formula? Is there something that, you know, a certain way it is, or how do you approach the song?
For me, speaking for myself, it just depends on what mood I'm in. It just depends on how I feel that day. It just depends on who I've been around, what I've been through. Sometimes I can write 4 songs in a day for 4 days straight, 4 songs every day. Sometimes I can't write for nothing, but I can go in the studio, hit the proper beat, and make a song from scratch. No pen, no pad, just go in there, punch in, come back out, figure it out.
Do you start with the hook first, or you start with the concept first?
Sometimes it just comes together.
Now there's different ways you can write a song though. There's like, you can do, like nowadays for a formula for a record, is it 16 bars in a hook and 16
these days,
in a double?
people make 2-minute songs these days and they go platinum. These days you're not getting 3 verses no more. You're getting a verse and a hook sometimes. Sometimes you're getting 2 verses and 1 hook. Sometimes a whole song can be a hook. Sometimes, I mean, it all depends. And
so what about the difference for radio though? Is radio still looking for
I see radio now follows the streaming story.
Exactly.
So it's like, it might not have a particular format of song, but it's going crazy on streaming, and radio has no choice because people are asking for this record that they gotta play it.
Spotify or Pandora, or what's the top streaming?
Well, I think Apple has caught up with Spotify. I think they're right neck and neck as far as user base now.
Tidal.
Yeah, but those, Apple and Spotify are the main ones, and then Tidal and Spotify come in right. I mean, Tidal and Pandora come in right after that, but radio tends to follow the streaming story now. I mean, and YouTube as well.
Oh yeah, YouTube.
If a video is just going nuts, millions of views, I mean, at the end of the day, streaming is forced to get on it, and then so is radio. Because 9 times out of 10, if something's going crazy on YouTube, a label's gonna pick it up and sign it, and then they're gonna take it to radio.
So now it's important for artists to know, you have to rely on radio.
I mean, it's still a factor.
You wanna start your stuff up.
Yeah, you start online.
Yeah.
Do you have to rely on radio?
No, you don't have to rely on radio, but in order to, you go to radio eventually. Yeah, you start online and it gets to radio.
So is there any particular type of music that radio won't play?
I don't think
Yeah, there's certain songs that
have millions and millions of plays.
millions and millions of plays,
It's
and
not
it
on
just
the radio.
never reached the radio.
Is that a specific genre?
That's just
I pay more attention to hip hop.
right.
You know, hip hop and R&B. But 9 times out of 10, those songs that never go to the radio are people who stay independent.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, and that's what people also don't understand. There's a science to working the radio, and there are people there are only certain people that those program directors are going to have that conversation with, of even how the radio platform really works in order to really break a record. I can't go have a certain conversation that a promo guy is going to have with a PD to ensure that my record is going in the rotation.
So do I need to have a record company to get a promo, to have my record
More than
pitch that radio?
You don't necessarily have to. There are indie promo guys that you can go and regionally work a record, and then from regional you can go to national.
How do you find those people?
Hey, you really got to get out here in the street and do your research and find out, you know, who's breaking records. Really, that's how I learned everything in the business, is looking at people who were in position of where I wanted to be, and then working backwards from there. So when it was the blog era, I would find, you know, I would look at certain websites, I would see who the contact was, and I would be like, okay, these artists that are like my artists, how are they breaking? Okay, they're on this website, they're on that website. Who's the contact at these websites? And I'm just cold emailing, and until I get answers back. Right. And that's the same thing. You go to these radio stations, how are these indie records getting played? Who got it in here? And you work backwards from there.
So you mentioned YouTube. How important is the video? how important is a visual images going on social media that gives an audience, you know, kind of the flavor of who you are as an artist or your music. How important is that tool? Because to me, people listen with their eyes these days.
Yeah, that's what I said. Seeing is believing.
And when you approach a video, a concept for a video, what are you looking at?
I mean, we're looking for whatever not just best fits the song, but what fits my personality and what I'm capable of doing and what I'm capable, and maybe what the director is able to bring out of me to make it make sense with the record and who I am as a person, as an artist, and what my listeners and fans and supporters would like to see from me.
Mm. So I know you got a lot of hot women in your videos, because I haven't seen it. Is that important?
I mean, it just depends on the record.
No matter what I put you through, man, you stuck to the way.
You know, it depends on the vibe, the song. Like with the song Handful, you have to have a lot of women in a record like that. Cliche or not, that's what people want to see from that. They don't want to see no action and no, you know, downs. They want to see bright, they want to see fun, they want to feel the record when they see it.
So I'm gonna close out talking about touring, because it seems like artists these days make a lot of money.
That's where it's at.
On the road, more than they making off records.
For sure.
And it seems like it's important to have a record to get gigs to tour. Yeah. But if I don't have a record deal and I'm trying to get out there to open up for somebody,
relationships.
How do I
go
do
relationships.
Relationships. So it's just about
with the artist or with the
with whoever you're trying to
both.
open for. Yeah, both.
Both. Because if I'm a headlining act, 9 times out of 10, I'm choosing my support.
Exactly.
And there's nothing better than to be able to get in front of a new audience every night and touch those people. If you can, you know, make 20% of the audience your fans every night,
you're good.
You're doing what you need to do. And as an artist, you should want to stay on the road as much as possible.
I mean, even if the headliner doesn't, y'all don't have a relationship, it's good that they hopefully know who you are based off your groundwork or based off word of mouth.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, I appreciate you stopping by today. I know
Thanks
you're
for
really
having
busy, and you know, hopefully we shed some light on some of the things out there that you need to know. So join us again for another edition of Artist in Residence.